Welcome to the Distressed Business Playbook.
Welcome back to the Distressed Business Playbook with attorney Todd Duffy, founder of Todd E. Duffy, PLLC. Todd is a New York bankruptcy attorney who works with businesses and decision makers navigating financial pressure, restructuring, and complex legal challenges. I'm Evan Mack, and today we're talking about personal guarantees, business debt, and what owners may still be personally responsible for when a company runs into trouble. Todd, welcome back, brother.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for having me.
Good stuff, Todd. So what is a personal guarantee? Why do lenders, landlords, and other creditors so often require one for a business owner?
Well, I think the short answer to that is that lenders often and landlords often require this because they want to guarantee payment. They think that getting someone to personally guarantee something means that automatically they'll pay their business debt because they don't want their personal assets to be in jeopardy. I think in a lot of cases, that's a miscalculation because a lot of these business owners don't really have that many assets. Their main asset is all their assets are really invested in their business. And so there's very much a dotted line between the existence and the identity of these business owners and the business themselves. And that's particularly true in small to medium-sized businesses.
Where do business owners most commonly run into personal guarantees?
Almost everywhere. I see them constantly. I see them with landlords. I see them with equipment rentals or equipment leases, car leases, SBA loans. Those are a big one because especially during COVID, there were a lot of government loans that were out there and offered and even in some respects pushed. And in order to get those loans, you had to sign you needed to sign the loan documents in order to have personal assets. But, a personal guarantee is really only as good as the assets that are behind it. And if there are no personal assets, then there's no real guarantee. There's different forms of guarantees too. So landlords often have what's known as a good guy guarantee. And a good guy guarantee is as long as the business is still running, the guarantee is operable. But if you dissolve the business or you walk away from the business and or you file a Chapter 7 or a Chapter 11 for the business, then the business is not, the guarantee is not operable generally. Each has different wording, but that's how I would phrase it.
What changes for an owner once a debt carries a personal guarantee?
Well, now the owner has to concern himself not only with how am I going to keep my business afloat and how am I going to pay my employees, how am I going to pay for my overhead, but now it's a question of what assets am I going to have to sacrifice to get myself out of this hole that I'm in? And those are, that has family implications, that has personal implications.
So Todd, how aggressively can creditors pursue a business owner after a guaranteed debt goes in default?
Very aggressively. Generally speaking, it's the same lawsuit. And so personal guarantees are treated the same as if they were the lendee or the borrower.
How do personal guarantees start to shape bankruptcy, restructuring, or workout decisions for a struggling business, Todd?
There's a different consideration as to whether or not how you would move forward in a bankruptcy. My first thought when I have a personal guarantee is, can the business generate sufficient revenue to pay creditors 100% over the course of 5 years? If that's the case, then the personal guarantees might not be implicated if I can negotiate with creditors to wait. If we agree to pay them in, their principal plus interest, chances are they probably would wait. And if not, then there's a real possibility that you're going to need to file a bankruptcy for the person who guaranteed the debt. And if that's the case, what you try and do is you try and file a bankruptcy petition, not only for the business, but for the person, and then you consolidate the two cases.
Can you walk us through a situation where a personal guarantee dramatically changed the stakes for a business owner?
Yeah, I think that I've seen cases where, and I could say this hasn't happened to me because I've already anticipated what the personal guarantee and the effects of the personal guarantee would be. But I've seen cases where it hasn't been anticipated, and so they file a bankruptcy petition for the business, but the owner would complain later that why is he still being sued when the automatic stay protects the business? And the lawyer had to explain that it doesn't protect him personally. It only protects the business. And the code is very, very specific about that.
Where do owners misunderstand the scope of what they agreed to when they signed a personal guarantee, Todd?
I think, well, where they go wrong is they don't have a lawyer helping them understand the language, because the language is very complex and dry is the best. I mean, I've been a lawyer 25 years, and I look at personal guarantees, and my eyes glaze over about 4 or 5 words into it. But I know what I'm looking for, and I've read enough of these to see what it is I'm looking for. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't have that advantage. I think that so that's where they start from the very beginning, and I think they also underestimate the power of a personal guarantee and what that means.
What practical options may still exist for an owner facing serious exposure from a personal guarantee?
Well, as I mentioned before, you could file the owner's bankruptcy and consolidate the two. And so therefore it's really run like one case, but everybody gets the protection of the automatic stay. Second possibility, which is less, it's less common, I think is a better way to put this, is that you can what's known as extend the automatic stay to include the owner. And so if the judge agrees with that, and there are certain elements that you have to show in order to get that done, then that would stop any kind of litigation that would be happening with the owner and the creditor, between the owner and the creditor. And then the third is just simple negotiations. You can negotiate with creditors, especially in smaller business cases. You really can negotiate with these creditors. They don't really expect necessarily to receive a large portion of their claim from these smaller businesses. And if in fact you can find a path to get them paid, I think they're more likely to actually get that, work with you.
What separates manageable guaranteed problems from situations that spiral into larger financial trouble?
Well, talking with a bankruptcy lawyer helps, because you can plan, and you can actually anticipate where bankruptcy lawyers generally can anticipate where the creditors are going to be going and how they're going to be acting aggressively, and how that'll affect your business. But all too often I have seen where creditors actually come back and they are so busy trying to run their business that it's not that they don't see the impending disaster coming or the light at the end of the tunnel, which happens to be a train. What they see is, if I can, they're really more focused on short-term gain than long-term gain. If I can make it through this week and make payroll, then, everything will be okay. But then Monday comes, and then they have to do this all over again the following week. I think that more times than not, you want to make sure that people understand that the sooner you can consult with a bankruptcy lawyer, the more likely it is that you can maintain your relationships with vendors and your creditors, and you can keep your clients, and you can keep your business.
Wow. Good stuff, Todd. Thank you so much.
Thanks, sir.
That's it for today's episode of the Distressed Business Playbook. If you'd like to learn more about Todd Duffy and his work with businesses, navigating restructuring, bankruptcy, and complex financial challenges, visit teduffylaw.com. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to leave a review, and subscribe to the show so you don't miss the next episode. And we'll see you all next time.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.